our goal is to get it out to the world. It's a gym on Black Wall Street.
And when I found out that there was a gym on Black Wall Street, I was like, we have to get on this.
Because I blew a whole football scholarship. See, I left college and went to prison. People don't know that about me. Hey, you guys, I'm Reggie Cooper. We're here at the Muscle Squad Lab, and welcome to the podcast on the wood. I got my man Kode here. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
I'm Cody Ransom. I co-own the Black Wall Street Liquid Lounge. I'm also the resident historian here in Greenwood, so I walk people on the tours and kind of give them education on what happened in Greenwood, but also just Oklahoma history in general.
So the information I've learned from you, it kind of made my mind think a little bit different. You know, I'm sitting here looking at this, all these businesses, and I'm like, wow. Not knowing if we can get it back to that, but it's just like to be a part of it here now, it's like, man, it's amazing. And it made you kind of think a little different, like, man, Tulsa it's really something, you know what I mean? And I think we kind of overlook it because of the number one thing, we're not educated. Don't nobody know, so I said we need this information like ASAP. Like, I'm an adult, so I know it's a lot of adults that haven't got the information. And to be from here is the most craziest thing. When I'm sitting here walking and talking and listening to you, like, man, you mean to tell me all this information that I ain't never known nothing about? I'm born and raised here, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we think it's small, to be honest with you. That's why, like, even having a business down here, we have to operate a little bit differently. Because, like, when you know the history of where you are, we can't just come down here and make it a money grab.
Right.
Like, here, we're obligated to do something a little bit bigger. And it's like, it's gonna take specific types of people to pull that off. But the entire world has been looking at us since 2019, 2018. So it's like, for little bitty Tulsa, Oklahoma to be on the map with your Los Angeles, your New York City, your Miami, your Houstons, and we don't have nearly the things that they have entertainment-wise. But like the history that we have down here is what's different. This was the first time I saw people like really interested in history. You know, like I've always been interested in it. I like to know why things work the way it does, but I saw people during the middle of a pandemic drive halfway across the country to come see this place.
Yes.
So these are people that know, like, I could come there and get COVID and die, but I'm going to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm going to go see Black Wall Street. I watch people come down here, and the moment they get out of their cars, they just start crying. And they don't know they don't know barely any of the history. They know what they've seen in The Watchmen or Lovecraft Country. Like, they know small window of Greenwood history. But it also helps to where, like, let's say Tulsa was to say we're gonna give reparations for Greenwood. If you don't know the history of Greenwood, then that amount of money that you would probably say is accurate, it really wouldn't be. Because you don't really know what you lost, you know what I mean? So you're saying, oh, well, if they gave us $100 million, that'd be perfect. But that monument I showed you showed that in today's money, the physical damage would have been about $40 million, minimum. So if you take that $40 million and you multiply that by 102 years, $100 million is peanuts. You know, like, this would have been $1 billion district. So the fact that all of these people were coming here, like Ray Charles could have went and performed anywhere, he came here. Billie Holiday would come here, Cab Calloway would come here. So like, Tulsa had those things. So all those times we were growing up, just as, especially North Side kids, I was one that got in a lot of trouble. But I also did not know, like, being from Tulsa, Oklahoma, we were supposed to have a different type of pride, being from North Side. And I used to come to Greenwood, I just didn't really know much about it. You know, so the more you know, when you first moved down here, that was why I told you, like, hey bro, like, you really are, like, you're in a prime spot. You know what I mean? And, you know, once we know it and we know that these people work together differently, you know, they looked at people who weren't from here a little differently, because none of them were. So they had more of a collaborative spirit. And so when you came and I knew you had that, it's like, yeah, he's supposed to be down here. Now, sometimes we get people that move in the block that they don't understand this block, so they're not collaborative, which not all people are going to be. But here, if anywhere in the U.S., this should be the spot that you're collaborative in. Like, if you're not that way down here, I really don't even blame them. I kind of just write it off to maybe they just don't know where they are and they don't really truly understand, like, how this place was successful, how this place worked. And again, man, you were one of them that the moment you got here, like, I could tell. And I walk the block every day, so I see the way people work. And like, if I'm imagining what it would have been like in Greenwood back then, Greenwood could have had a muscle squad. Like just because of the way you collaborate, the way you work, it's not just I'm gonna stay hold of my spot and survive. Like you're building out, and that's what these people did. So, just as a fellow business owner down here, just want to tell you, like, I appreciate that. Like, it's not, I don't get to see it. So when it comes, like, the block needed for sure.
Yeah.
I'll take you over there where those bricks are. So we'll start on your side of the building, building, the Williams building, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Educational thing out there is where it's gonna blow out your mind, bro. Even adults, they don't know this stuff, man.
So if we could just tackle that, kind of cover some of that, and then as we take the walk, I'll just highlight some of the other stuff. Okay. All right. So here with the HR 12707 bill, me and you had talked about it before, but this is the part that a lot of people don't know about the land run. So when the land run opened, of course, Oklahoma was already settled. So this was Indian territory back then, and when the territory is open, that's where Norman, Oklahoma gets the Boomer Sooner thing from. So the Sooners were people who crossed over into Oklahoma early, squatted on land and took it. So there were already black and native people in Oklahoma at the time. So the way it's taught to us in most history classes is Oklahoma was completely empty, and then people came over. So the land run actually started in 1898, whereas the Trail of Tears was from 1831 to 1877. So that brought the Native Americans here. The 5 civilized tribes came here during the Trail of Tears, and then they brought their enslaved people with them. So they also enslaved African American people, which is why someone like you would either be a freedman or you'd be a part of the tribe.
Right.
So a freedman or people who earned their freedom, it was normally 5 to 7 years of servitude, and then you became a freedman. So you got some Native American benefits, but not all. And then that's also why we had so many black towns here in Oklahoma. Black people were not allowed to live on the Native American reservations. So we started black towns right outside of them. So like Boley, Redbird, Tallahassee, Taft, Renniesville, Clearview, Vernon, Zion, all of them come from that particular thing. And so the whole purpose of those people moving here is they wanted to make Oklahoma a black state. So it's supposed to be a black and Native American state. So when we think about, like, when you go to an OU football game and you watching them come out with the covered wagon on horseback, we don't really realize what they're reenacting, but it's literally the stealing of land in Oklahoma. So Greenwood was actually fully established by 1905. Oklahoma became a state in 1907. So they did apply for statehood in 1906, all the different black town leaders, and they got denied. Then in 1907 is when a group of Klansmen applied for statehood, and then Oklahoma became a state. So this person, O.W. Gurley, was actually here before the land run. He got here right before, and he was one of only a few blacks that were able to even get into Oklahoma for that land run purpose. So even now, Henry Dawes created a Dawes Roll, which is where your roll card number would come from.
Right.
But he created that Dawes Roll to be able to track Native Americans and their benefits. But they made it extremely hard for black people to get their roll card number. And then also, you can only get it if you have the last person in your family that has one. Then you need every birth certificate and death certificate that leads to you. But then it also wasn't technically a law until the 50s to even give black people birth certificates. So there's a lot of black people born in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s that never had birth certificates. So then they would never have a Native American roll card number. Wow. So that kind of kills their lineage as far as them getting. And then the Creeks, I think just now agreed to start paying their freedmen 2 weeks ago. Before that, the other 4 civilized tribes paid their freedmen, but the Creeks wouldn't. So the Creeks wouldn't. And so that's where a lot of that actually comes from. So as we take the walk, we'll kind of cover a little more of that, but then we'll also see locations that are associated with these people as we take the walk.
Cool. It's definitely an honor to be down here, man, and just steady learning everything, Like I said, me and you had bumped a few times, but honestly, bro, and I told a few of my partners, man, I said, man, y'all know Cody? He's like, yeah. I said, nah, bro, Cody, he that guy, bro, far as people person, bro, and vibe. So when I first did the tour, I'm like, dang, this dude, how you know all this information? That's big, bro, and to be able to give it to these people like the way you do and answer their questions, man, it's like, man, like, that's a good thing, man. And I'm, like I said, I'm enjoying it because I'm steady learning from it. I'm like, man, like, that ain't something easy you can do, bro, to sit here and to not only talk about this because we here and we feel it more differently than others because we here. You know what I'm saying? Not only we from here, but we still here. Yeah. When the Juneteenth and everything, when people go home, we still here. So that's what people don't understand, but I acknowledge that, bro. I salute you. The way you give your tours, you're very educational and knowledgeable. My question to you is, Okay, what made you get so deep in and knowledgeable about Black Wall Street and Greenwood, and how did you like accumulate all this information?
Man, my whole life, bro, I was a sponge. So like I was always like on the edge. Like my brother's street, like my sister wasn't. My mom was just like, she in the house, you know what I mean? So when I was a kid, I was a nerd, but I would go fight. Like I grew up boxing, so I like to fight. So I would get in a lot of trouble. So me being punished and like getting grounded, I just grabbed a book. It didn't really bother me. So like I grew up reading. My granny was one that always told me, like, if you don't know the history of where you are, like, you're going to fail. Like, you have to know where you are. So I used to listen to her talk about Greenwood some. I got to be around Mother Fletcher some when I was younger, so I would hear stories from her. And then I'm one of those people, you know, similar to people who take the tour to where it's like, man, that's so unbelievable. I'm gonna go research that, see like, is that real? And then I used to get mad at the fact that we didn't have a Black Wall Street anymore, or Black businesses didn't work together a lot, or I used to get mad at the fact we didn't have certain resources and things of that nature. And then I really had to take a step back and say, like, part of the reason we don't have it is because we're not educated on it, and we're expecting a city that did it to teach us about it. And it's like the city participated in burning Greenwood, but it also used that highway to take it a second time. So why would they put it in the books that like, oh yeah, you were supposed to have this, but we decided to put a highway through there. Or like they, you know, if I worked in the city and this was like really my city, I wouldn't do that either. You know, you wouldn't just expose that information. So the more I started to dig and figure out like why was Tulsa such a thing, and then you see that this is the oil capital of the world. And so if this is the oil capital of the world, it's not just Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? It's the entire world. So like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? So I sat with some of the historians, man, and to be honest, it was boring. I like history, so like I stayed engaged, but I was also thinking like, if he was talking to 13-year-old me, I would have checked out 30 minutes ago. So it was like, how do you mix, you know, like art and pop culture? Like that's the way our kids learn. You know what I mean? So they're learning through music, poetry, art, video games, movies, and so it's like, well then somebody got to be able to talk to them on that level and still do it. So when I thought of historian, I thought like, okay, it's gonna be some 50, 60-year-old man talking to me. So then it was like, I'm gonna start trying it. But first 2 years, I did tours completely free. I ain't charge anybody. I just used to take them to the block. And I used to just tell them, as long as you shop with a Black business on Greenwood, it's free. Just bring me the receipt, let's do it. And I noticed how many people wouldn't let me leave without giving me something. So it was always like, nah, I'm a shop, but I'm a team. So it was just like, okay. But I did that as a way of like, man, let me pay my dues to the block. I don't want to take anything from this block if I haven't put anything back yet. And so it was one of those things to where it's like, people used to tell me I was unique for that, and I'm like, I'm really not. Like, people did this, you know, 100 years ago, this is what they were doing. So it's like, I'm not doing anything new or anything that other people can't do. It's just, I never saw what it looked like, so I never did it. So it's like being able to kind of model, you know, what that is. And then, like, I love doing tours for tourists, but I really love doing tours for locals. Because, like, they'll tell me, like, nah, I know this block, I grew up over here. And then you give them something, and they like, hey, wait, what? You know what I'm saying? So like, it even blow people's mind to say like, oh, you grew up on Garrison? Yeah, I'm on, you know, 52nd and Garrison. It's like, well, you on Greenwood. And they like, what you, nah, Garrison. It was like, well, Garrison is Greenwood. The city changed that in the 70s. So they did it as a way of blocking Greenwood out and making people forget about the name Greenwood. So like our streets run alphabetically. So the G would be Greenwood. They changed it to where it only exists from 3rd Street to Pine. And then after that, that G turns into Garrison. So there's only 2 streets that do that. It's MLK and Greenwood. And both of those are north of the highway. So it's, once people are like, wait a minute, so I grew up on 52nd and Greenwood, not Garrison.
Pretty much.
And if, now that they know that, they're like, oh, then I'm a Greenwood, baby. You know what I mean? And that come with a different, you know what I mean, different swagger, a different pride, man. So it's it's tough to do. Like, so that's why I don't can play a lot, you know, while I do the tours, just because history is hard to, sometimes I gotta do multiple tours in a day. So I didn't used to understand why, like, I was like, I don't need no breaks, I can just go. But then after a while, you'd be like, having to keep going in that hole every day.
It's a lot.
You know, but at the end of the tour, like I don't see people walk away sad or upset. Like I see them walk away inspired. And so like that's the part that I try to stick to. Like they walk out of here thinking like, man, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna build something. Like versus like, oh man, it's over. You know what I mean? So like when I get that response, I'm always like, dang, okay, I ain't do that right. Like I didn't frame that the right way, because people should leave here wanting to build something.
Absolutely.
And so this portion of Greenwood, this is deep Greenwood, the south side of the railroad tracks, excuse me. That was the dividing line between Greenwood and Tulsa. So on this side, you'd be in Black Wall Street. But if you cross to the south, that's when you get into Tulsa. So Greenwood initially was its own place. So it wasn't a part of Tulsa all the way. So blacks were allowed to go work in Tulsa, but you had to be back here before it got dark. And so as far as like the boundaries of Greenwood, which is a part most people don't get, they think of Black Wall Street, they just think of this one strip. Whereas like you being from here, you know, like if you're going all the way down this street, you got to go a mile that way, all the way to the center of the universe. That's when you get to the border of Greenwood, all the way to Boston. And then you have to go to Lansing, which is about a mile to the east. You know, and then you go a mile to the north and you get to Pine. So the thing about Pine is Greenwood didn't used to curve this way. Back then, Greenwood used to be a straight shot. When OSU got the land, they put that bend in there. Also, a picture of what this would have looked like if we were standing right here in 1936, so 15 years after the massacre. That's where that picture was taken. So that particular picture that says Black Wall Street Forever, that's literally from this street corner looking to the north. So those buildings that are in that photo, these are the last of them. So the Dreamland is in that photo. The Dixie Theater is in there. Like I said, your building that your gym is right in there, because you're in the Bryant building on the back side. So the one with the triangles at the top, that's the Bryant building on this side.
So that's why, like in the back, a while you can still see the bricks back there.
Yeah, so that's the original brick that they rebuilt with. So they couldn't get brick or material anywhere in Oklahoma, so they had to go out of the state of Oklahoma to get it. Some of them went to some of the black towns in order to get it. But Tulsa wouldn't give them material, and neither would most of Oklahoma. So they had to buy it from out of state, which is why a lot of these bricks look different. But the part that I always get people on is this one here. So this tells you a lot about, if we don't know history, the mistakes we make with it. So this became the National Register of Historic Places. It was made historic June 10th, 2021. So the reason that's significant is, had this place been made historic June 10th, 1980, everything that's built around it would have had to have looked like this. So when you live in a historic neighborhood or you build in a historic place, if it's named historic, everything you build has to model what it used to look like. So none of this stuff was here in the 80s. So the fact that it became historic after everything was built kind of tells you those buildings get grandfathered in. So if you can imagine, if we wanted Greenwood to look like Greenwood, if we'd have made this place historic just 20, 30 years ago, then we'd have had a whole 40 square blocks that looked like this. You know, so people not knowing the history of things like that is part of the reason why we didn't have it historic, not knowing that that was even a thing. But that was how these buildings got saved. That was the very first building that was rebuilt after the massacre. So when Urban Renewal came and put that highway through the middle, they were able to keep this side because this was the first district they rebuilt after the massacre. So for historic purposes, all the way back in '69, this was historic, but it wasn't on the National Registry. So by not applying for that or not knowing about it, it was able to be built up all around it and surrounded where it can't go anywhere. Like Greenwood and this strip can't actually grow because of that. And then here, these are the fire bricks. So they're not from this particular building. The guy who built it, Dr. Althea Bryant, he put these on the front of the building in the 30s, just as a reminder of people about what happened during the massacre, and also to show the amount of fire damage that took place. So the one directly above the door is like the most charred, but it melted those bricks together. So you need 800 to 1,000 degrees before you start to melt a brick to that extent. And then some of them even still have the kerosene on them. So what happened during the massacre is when they flew over with planes, they doused everything in kerosene. So they poured kerosene on from planes, and then they dropped Molotov cocktails, basically, fire bombs on top of it. So you also have to think this is at a time where we didn't have bank statements and things like that digitally. Yeah. So if you had money in the bank, so Tulsa Greenwood didn't have a black bank, so everybody banked in Tulsa. Okay. So your promissory note and your bank receipts would have been in your house. Your land deed would have been in your house, and then your house got set on fire. So whatever you had in the bank, you just had to trust that the bank was going to give you an accurate amount, which most of them didn't. But you didn't have a receipt that says how much money you actually had in the bank. So you weren't able to get your full amount. So like little things like that. This was O.W. Gurley's hotel, this tan building. Out of everything he built in the Greenwood district, that's the only thing he rebuilt before he left. And then he moved to California, Los Angeles region, tried to recreate Greenwood there. And then of course, you know, Mr. Sales. It's the oldest running business on this strip of Black Wall Street. But Mr. Sales has been here, I think, since like 80, I want to say 85. But this also used to be a movie theater.
I've been born, 85.
Yeah, I was born in 88, so he was here before me for sure. And that's where you get all this ceramic and stuff. This actually used to be a movie theater. So this was the second largest theater in Greenwood. Wow. The biggest one would have been the Dreamland, which would be right across the street from where we are now. And then here's the Dixie. So one of the things that particular story I like people to really realize is if you had a movie theater on one side of the street, and then I decided to put one across the street. Nowadays people view that as competition. Right. Whereas Lula Williams, who owned the Dreamland, didn't really bother her. But part of that reason, there were over 10,000 people in Greenwood, and she only had 750 seats. So having another theater wouldn't have hurt her business. It actually helped. You got more people coming down. Whereas nowadays, you think about the mindset that would have had to be to collaborate with somebody you don't know that's moving into it. None of these people were from Tulsa, Oklahoma. They all moved here from different states with the dream of building a Black and Native American state. So for them to do that, and then nowadays we couldn't be right next door to each other without.
But it's funny you said it, because I think I told you the story. I had the experience when I first came down here.
Yeah.
With the whole shit. Felt like I was competing. Competing how?
Nah.
You know what I mean? You got your own set of people.
Yeah.
I got my own set. You know what I mean? Like,
build up. And so the more people get collaborative, the more they work together, and you bring people in. That was really the Greenwood spirit. That's how it worked down here, and that's really what we got to get back to if we want Greenwood to survive. Really, it won't survive if we're always going at each other. They're fixing this over here, so we're gonna cross in the street really quick. But even the symbolism, like people who aren't from here don't know, but even this dividing line, this is where the Black Lives Matter mural used to be. Yeah. So we didn't repave the whole street. We only did the part that said Black Lives Matter, so it stops there. And then Madam C.J. Walker had a beauty parlor here. Her beauty parlor used to be right there, directly under the highway. There was a hotel over here, which was the Red Wing. It had a restaurant and all that inside of it. You know, there were doctor's offices on that side, a contracting company there. Used to be a club right here on the corner, which was Commodore's Cotton Club.
And how many businesses was it total?
There were 197 that were burned. So the exact number of homes, 1,256 houses, and then 197 businesses. And then over 300 people died. So it was a massive massacre here. And then of course all of that is still Black Wall Street too. Everything in the skyline. Burning, of course, is what survived the massacre itself, the basement of it. So they still actually have the original steel beams that held up the church back then. And then a lot of people don't know that Michael Jackson's family was here too.
Really?
So Joe Jackson's uncle was Jack's funeral service. Okay. Now it used to be called Jackson's undertaking service. So that family still owns it. So Tito was here, I think maybe a week or two ago.
What?
Yeah, he was in that church. So the day after the massacre, they had church service in the basement of that church after. Family actually gave them the chairs that they had the funeral service with and the church service. So they still have the chairs from back then inside of there. So that's why I say, as far as like the museum and the cultural center, you can read about these things. Right. But Vernon is the only place that literally has history you can touch. The U.S. that was meant to be like for entrepreneurs and free enterprise was here. Like this was no man's land. Nobody wanted it. Like even that little panhandle part of Oklahoma, like, you know, that didn't used to belong to us. That was a part of Texas. So back, I can't remember what year, but like slavery couldn't exist above the Mason-Dixon line that runs through the U.S. So if Texas would have kept that panhandle part, they would have had to have given up their slaves. So Texas forfeited that part and gave it to Indian territory because they was like, well, we don't want to get rid of slavery, so we'll just get rid of that part of Texas. So like all of it is called Texas County. So if you ever go to the Panhandle, you're in Texas County, Oklahoma. Like, so it's like little things like that where if you know it and you know that, like, even during the oil boom, when Tulsa became the oil capital of the world, it brought the Phillips family here. So Phillips 66 ended up here. Quick Trip came out of here. Sinclair gas came out of here. So like you go out west, you see factories and oil refineries of theirs. Those people weren't from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Like they moved here from New York, you know, DC area. Like those were like big rich tycoons who decided to relocate here because of just being the oil capital of the world. They saw a way that they can make some money here. So it's happened, you know, coming from bigger cities, people think Tulsa don't really make money. And it's like, Tulsa makes real money.
Black Wall Street, do you see it making a comeback? Basically, from what you see, you've been down here longer than me, and you know, you're very educated, you see a lot to go on down here. I know I just want to know what yours is.
It can come back. I think that, again, educating the people who make it out of here, they don't normally come home. So like pulling in a Josh Jacobs, Tyler Lockett. If you just took, let's just say all the NFL players that come out here. So from D-Train, Lockett, Josh Jacobs, R.W. McCorders, Daxton Hill, Justice Hill, Chris Harris. Like you just pull all of them. And we say that, you know, hey bro, end of the year you gotta pay taxes. Like put your tax money into this nonprofit that y'all gonna do together.
Right.
And we're gonna use that money in that nonprofit to just buy one block. So you buy one block of Black Wall Street. Now you have one that's black owned.
Right.
So it keeps that momentum of people wanting to come see it, you know what I mean? But you also educate people on like, you can take Black Wall Street home with you. Just pay homage to where you got it from.
Right.
So we have there's a Black Wall Street in Atlanta. You know, Greenwood Bank is there. Like they have a lot of Greenwood stuff in Atlanta. They just don't have a bridge. That, like, are you bringing Greenwood people to Atlanta? Are you putting something back into the original?
Right.
So it's no different than, you know, if I start working out in here and it's your protein that I'm using, I can't just be like, I just got big, bro. Like, nah, I gotta give homage and pay homage to, no, this is where I patronize and this is where I need to bring the business to. So I think we can do it. I think it's just different mindset of people. And but it's coming.
I liked every day, but what stuck out the most is a lot of people don't understand paying homage because it got to start somewhere, and that's very important. And I think that's what's wrong with half of our city is that for me, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Wouldn't be no muscle squad if it weren't for a guy named Andrew Bates. Andrew Bates used to be a successful trainer, graduated from TU, played ball. Man, this dude got me everything, changed my life, and I'm always salute that man because without him, I wouldn't have made the steps that I made without him. People not used to giving people their flowers, so it's just like, oh, well, no, it don't go like that. That's why if I got some of these people on my wall, I pay homage. Like this is what it's about. This is how things should go. But I think, bro, we can do it, but it's gonna take us wanting to do it. Just more than like-minded people, you know what I mean?
For sure. And you. Like, so there's a philosophy that I live by, like, and I put people in one of three categories. Like, I believe everybody has value, even people I don't like. I don't have to like them, I don't have to trust them, I don't have to love them, but they have value. So when I think of people, I either think of you as somebody I can build for. So like I'm building something that's gonna help you, or I'm building a product that you're gonna buy, or build with. This is a person I can partner with. We can work together and build something together. Or you're somebody I'm gonna learn from. Typically, my learn from pool of people I don't like. I need to learn why I don't like you.
Right.
Can I come in a room and still exist with you in there and not change who I am? And then, you know, once I learn why I don't like you, typically I can take you out of that category because I can fix whatever it is I don't like.
Right.
I can say that, it's his personality that I don't really like, or maybe he's arrogant. Cool. Well, now that I know that's just who he is, that's not directed towards me. Then you're no longer in that category. So like you coming in a coffee shop, I joke with people all the time, especially groups. I'll say like, who in this group doesn't drink coffee? And so when they raise their hand, I'm like, okay, so you're the most interesting people in here to me. The ones who drink coffee, I know, I got you. You know, why don't you drink coffee? Well, I don't like the taste. So if I sweeten it up, Does that help? Nah, I don't like the caffeine. Well, I have decaf. I don't like coffee at all. Well, I have teas, I have lemonades, I have waters. So I learned from you enough to be able to say, okay, these are the ways that I can pivot.
Right.
And so I think that mindset has helped me be able to see a future in Black Wall Street, because there are people that business-wise or philosophy-wise, I don't agree. But I believe if you just learn the perspective of other people, you're good. Like, I don't have to agree or disagree. I just want to know that you believe it. If you believe it, it's real. Like, so if you say that we can rebuild Black Wall Street, okay, well, what does it look like to you? Because it might look different to me.
Right.
And can I help you build what you want to build? So that's a partnership. Or are you just going to build something that I come patronize? That's fine. There's going to be business relationships where it's just like, it's transactional. And we have to be okay with that. Everything ain't going to feel like family. So I think that mindset helped me a lot, because I used to get offended by, this person, you know, they ain't trying to really build. It's like, no, they're not trying to build my way.
Right.
And I can't be mad at you for that. You know what I mean? So as long as like the ultimate goal is the same. I've watched people do business deals and then afterwards talk bad about each other. But they made sure to finish the business deal. Like, I don't care how I feel about them. If you ask, no, I hate working with him, but he's great at marketing.
I don't want to work with nobody like that, honestly.
Yeah, so you don't have to directly. So there's ways of saying, like, I need a buffer. Like, I need somebody who can take his or her personality, because I can't. Right. So it happens in the coffee shop. There's certain customers that come in that my brain, I'm like, I don't really like some people. And sometimes it's just a difference in personality. So instead of me just being like, hey man, y'all can't come in here. Like, I can tap Jamia and be like, hey, you mind getting them for me?
Right.
Because her personality, it works. Okay. And they'll still talk to me, but I don't have to be as engaging. I can be off a little bit until I figure out, like, what is it that's bothering me? Right. And then if I tell you that that's bothering me, most people will adjust. Like, you know, there's some people, this is just how I am. Like, okay, as long as it ain't just me, I'm good. You know what I mean? So I think that if you're thinking about a Black Wall Street, there is no way in the world that these people all got along. But there is not a documentation of brawl in the street, or, you know, there was a shootout, or like, so they had problems. They just figured out, like, how do we solve these problems? Right. You know, behind the scenes. And I think that's Nipsey even said it, is how we respond to disrespect. You know what I'm saying? So like, I view that the same way when it comes to business and wanting to build Black Wall Street. There's things that happen that are disrespectful every day. You know, it's, you know, the sidewalks are dirty, or people drop cups and napkins. But I can be offended and be like, how dare you do that on Black Wall Street? Or I can just say, hey, did you know where you just dropped that napkin at? Right. Did you know somebody died right there? Somebody got killed in that spot that you left that cup? Without me getting mad at you, I just gave you just a little education. Yeah. And more than likely, you're going to go pick that cup up. Right. Like, I ain't really think about that. You know, so I think that it's just our approach sometimes is different. And growing up especially like growing up on the north side, like you're in a box and you don't know how to respond. Like, my mom did me a justice. I used to hate the fact she sent me to white schools when I was a kid. I went to Jackson Science Academy in Garland. I went to like super preppy schools. And I'm like, I'm the only hood kid here. But I learned how to deal and survive in those areas, whereas my brother and sister didn't. So as they became adults, they don't know how to adapt to personalities they don't like, because in the hood, you just avoid those people. Yeah. Whereas, you know, like in the actual world, you can't avoid it. You know, people who hate hot weather, what are you gonna do? It's gonna be hot. So you just gotta deal with it. So we know how. I think it's just changing the way we think about it. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, you can do it. You know what I'm saying? If you need a buffer, you know, I'm right across the street. You know? Still have the fire pitting and the fire damage on them. So going in there, you actually get to experience all of that.
So basically, you're saying it's better to get the experience in person than just reading and hearing about it.
Yeah. So like when I do tours with people, I don't discourage people from going to museums. Museums have accurate history. Right. It's just when you walk the block and you actually put your feet on the pavement and you see how massive it is versus just looking at a picture. But then you get to see what these people rebuilt. All of this used to be businesses too. And then it was all taken again due to urban renewal. So the massacre and the destruction of Black Wall Street is always blamed on the fires, when really it was that highway that destroyed Black Wall Street. So, and then this monument has a list of the insurance claims that were here. So the largest insurance claim on this list is $161,683, and that's Emma Gurley, so O.W. Gurley's wife. Wow. Now, in today's money, that comes out to about $2.4 million. So just for her businesses. Now, the reason that's important is the two wealthiest people in Greenwood, which was O.W. Gurley and J.B. Stratford, they never filed an insurance claim. So theirs would have been, of course, much larger than that one. The Dreamland family, which is John and Lula, $139,334.50. The only claims paid were for guns and ammunition. Only one gentleman here got it, which was J.W. McGee, but that actually went to the rioters. So when they came into Greenwood, they were given the guns by the National Guard and the police department. And then however many bullets they used or guns they used, they were paid according to that. So they got to file insurance claims saying, well, I shot 10 people, I shot 5 people, and that's how they were paid. And then, of course, that number, $2,719,745.61, comes out to about $40 million today. So that's $40 million of damage, and that does not include everybody. There was one person who filed all of these insurance claims on here, and that was him, B.C. Franklin. So
That's
John Hope Franklin Park.
From
Yeah.
BC, okay.
Yeah, so that's where B.C. Franklin comes from, but he filed every last one of these insurance claims. His office used to be right where that small tree is next to the street.
I never knew. That's crazy.
Yep. So that's why John Hope Franklin is Reconciliation Park. That's his son. So Reconciliation Park is right on the backside of Greenwood. All right, so this particular part, you know, when I'm giving tours, this is probably the most jarring part because you can talk about how many businesses were in Greenwood. So the number 197 is a lot. And when you actually see these industries and then you compare these industries to today, most people in Tulsa, Oklahoma have never seen a black-owned gas station, whereas Mr. Davis had multiple gas stations here in Greenwood. All we know is Quick Trip nowadays.
Right.
But, you know, we have one black-owned grocery store now, being Oasis, but back then, so over 100 years ago, they had 21.
Wow.
So for them to have that many, they had their own Waffle House down here, which was Cameron's Waffle House. Used to be on Cameron Street. So the highway actually takes up all of Cameron Street that used to exist there. Madam C.J. Walker's Beauty Parlor is on here. They had their own U.S. Federal Post Office down here. And there's Jackson Undertaking Company. J.B. Stratford had the largest black-owned hotel in all of America.
Wow.
And that used to sit right next to Vernon AME. J.D. Mann had multiple grocery stores. The East End Car Garage was down here. So the Goodwins from the Goodwin family, they're the oldest family still here. They're the only ones who still own land, but they were here before the massacre. But yeah, this is like blacksmiths, electric companies. There's, I think, like 17 hotels on here. There's restaurants, drugstores, there's jewelers, there's investment companies. Like, it literally had everything you can think of as far as a city. Dollar used to turn here 30 to 50 times.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
And they had a black-owned hospital, which was Fritzl Memorial. Second generation would have been Moulton Hospital.
Okay.
So that's where Moulton came from, was Fritzl Memorial. Dunbar was the school that was here, and then Booker T. Washington, of course, was the high school. And then even people that don't go to Booker T they don't teach us the history of Booker T. Washington High School. But the guy who founded it, Ellis Walker Woods was his name. He literally walked here from Memphis, Tennessee. It had to be the prominent black school.
Damn, stop.
Yeah. But for that be the prominent black school, and it's Oklahoma's top high school for like the past 50 years.
Yeah.
You know, so it just tells you a little bit about it. This was Homer Johnson's place right here. Homer Johnson he had a hotel, but Homer Johnson actually helped with the second generation rebuilding Greenwood quite a bit. And then B.C. Franklin, this is where he filed those insurance claims from. That was his office.
Wow.
There. And so from here to the untrained eye, the mural just looks like art. But what it actually does is it tells the stories of Black Wall Street, and each letter represents a different part of it. So the Dreamland Theater, what it looked like when it opened, 1914 is when it opened up. And that was the largest black-owned theater out here. And it was one of the only ones with air conditioning back then.
Wow.
Then that L is Vernon AME, so of course that's what Wall Street. The K shows the burning of Black Wall Street, what it would have looked like from Tulsa, looking into Greenwood. The W is the wealth, the money, the cars. So actually the very first Ford Model T purchased in Tulsa, Oklahoma was John and Lula Williams. So they were the first ones to buy one. So that's where that comes from. Then the A is the Jazz again. This used to be, the Jazz Hall of Fame used to be down here. The first L is the Oklahoma Eagle. So the Goodwin family are the only family, black family that actually owns land in Black Wall Street, commercial property, other than the church. And then the next L is the Gap Band. So, you know, of course, Charlie Wilson being from here, the Gap standing for Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. So that's the three main streets of Greenwood. So right now you're in the Gap because you're on Greenwood in between Archer and Pine. When they, back in the day when they would say go to the Gap, that's what they meant.
Gap Band.
Yeah, school was maybe a block and a half away. So the high school got burned too. So for that to be Oklahoma's top high school past 40, 50 years, and it's the last piece of Greenwood. So when OSU got all this land, they moved Booker T out of Greenwood. That's how it ended up over on Apache. It used to be where OSU is.
Wow.
So, but OSU got a lot of this land during urban renewal. So when they were building this highway, the city took a lot of this land from the people, and then they sold it to other people later. Also made quite a bit of it retention ponds. So that's why it's empty next to Vernon. That's a retention pond in case it ever floods. Even though this part of Greenwood or this part of Tulsa has never flooded before. But there's 4 of those on Greenwood just to make sure nobody could build there. So it wasn't the massacre that took all of this away. It was literally this. And so that's not unique to Tulsa though. Urban renewal happened all over the nation. It was a federal program where the federal government gave each city the right to put a highway where they wanted. Most cities chose to put them through black business districts because you could use eminent domain to take the land for dirt cheap. So they were only paying about 30% of your property value. So if you want to put it in numbers, if your gym was worth $100,000, the city could come to you and say, we'll give you $30,000 for it. And if you don't take the $30,000, they can tear it down anyway.
Wow.
So you either take the $30,000 or you get nothing. But that's all they had to offer you at that time. So.
Well, it's a lot of history, man. A lot of people need to be known.
It's like lullabies. So like that's why I use art. During tours, I joke and play with people a little bit, just to lighten the mood because it is a bunch of heavy material.
Yeah.
But when you know it, it makes things so much easier. Being down here for me, it's incredibly easy because I know the history of this building. I know what used to be there. It also helps that ambition to where you're not just spinning your wheels, man. Like, somebody did it before, and if I can learn how they did it, why they did it, then I can recreate it.
Wow.
But if I'm just completely ignorant to it, I'm not trying to learn it, or it's difficult to learn, so I don't want to try, those things get in our way. You know what I mean?
Another question I want to ask you, like you know, growing up here in Tulsa, what inspired you to like keep going here, like, you know, on the wood? All that you do, because you do a lot of. I acknowledge it because I'm one of the ones that, like, you've done this community. You know, me and you on that same page. We go back and forth for a lot of things, so we got a lot in common. But what keeps your fire lit going?
And I want to say, like, I wish I had a Cody or a Reggie when I was a kid. That would have changed a whole lot for my life. So just understanding that I gotta provide that, you know what I mean? So I'm one of those people that I've lived a lot of those stereotypical stories you hear about the hood kids, and so I just was able to see something different. And so, like, but education did that for me. History did that for me. So that's kind of what keeps me going down here, like, and it's that competitiveness of being an athlete. You're like, man, I can't quit, you know what I mean? Like, this is the game, I'm playing the game, and you know, I'm gonna have off days and all of that, but you gotta figure it out, you know what I mean? And so, like, I know for me, it's what keeps me pushing down here, but I'm gonna switch it up on you, and I'm gonna ask you, what keeps you coming down here every day and keeps your mind clear and makes you stay in Tulsa, Oklahoma to do it?
Man, that's a lot. I know a lot of people hear a lot of times speak on North Tulsa, this and that. That's where I grew up at, spent a lot of my life at.
Make some noise for Mr. Reggie Cooper.
Something that people don't know about me, that I did go to prison for 3 years of my life. And me doing that prison time opened my mind up to the world, like, dang, it's bigger than you. That's why I'm so deep into the community with the kids. That's why I work with them more, because it's more like, you ain't. I've been somewhere you don't want to go.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of keep me going more. Like I got a bigger purpose in this world. It's bigger than me. You know what I mean? So that's a little bit of the story that we'll get into. That I'm about ready to start doing my documentary on. That a lot of people don't understand really what's behind me. So I'm grateful to be here. So tell these people, you know what I'm saying, where they can find you at. You know what I mean? We tell them also about the special we got, the protein, coffee, the salted caramel limited edition. You guys only got 2 months to get that before the holidays, so you only got to go to Black Liquid Lounge, the Holly Kode to get it. It's amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you just come down to Black Wall Street Liquid Lounge, which is 10 North Greenwood, Suite 101. If you're looking for me, you just anywhere here in the Gap, you just come down to Greenwood, you'll find me. I don't typically leave from down here. That protein shake has definitely been moving. Really anything we get in there from Put It On and from Muscle Squad, it moves. So we've actually made us kind of ramp up our menu too. So like it's a dope experience, and then just adding it to a black coffee. Like most people have never had that before, but your caffeine and your protein all together. It's an amazing thing. So I'm looking forward to just keeping doing it and pushing this summer special. So y'all gotta pull up, you gotta get it. Just ask for Put It On shot. We'll take care of the rest.
I want to appreciate you, bro, for coming through. This is the podcast on the wood. You guys look forward to tuning in to more guests, more business owners, entrepreneurs. We're really trying to bring it back. As you can see, me and Cody have collaborated, so that means we're working together. I think that's a great start for us to kind of start shaping everything back together. So appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we're going to catch y'all next time.